Hey, welcome back. I was walking through the West Village the other day, past those beautiful, quiet, tree-lined streets, and I had this thought. The most terrifying things can hide in the plainest sight. Behind a brownstone door, under the veneer of a normal business, inside the mind of the man who serves you your coffee. That's where the real stories are. The ones that make you look at your city just a little differently. I'm Ibnul Jaif Farabi, and this is Underworld Kings, the Rise and Fall. Today, we're going into one of the most audacious, bizarre, and almost comically sinister criminal schemes in New York history. This isn't a story about a mob hitman or a bank robber. This is about a man who built an empire not on selling vices, but on selling people. Or rather, selling them back. This is the story of Big Frenchy, the self-proclaimed Count of New York. Our story starts in the early 1930s, in the depths of the Great Depression. New York is a city of stark contrasts. Glittering towers scraping the sky, and down in the shadows, a desperate, seething struggle. And into this world steps a man named John Big Frenchy DeMetri. He was a giant of a man, over 6 feet tall and 300 pounds, with a booming voice and an accent that was, well, let's just say it was an attempt at French aristocracy. He claimed to be a displaced Russian nobleman, a descendant of the Romanovs. In reality, he was likely from Pittsburgh, but in a city of reinvention, Frenchy reinvented himself as royalty. And he set up shop in a most ingenious way. He opened a series of employment agencies. On the surface, completely legitimate. They promised good jobs to down-on-their-luck men, factory work, dock work, positions out of state. And they delivered. That was the genius of it. Frenchy's agencies actually found these men jobs. He'd get them a position on a farm in New Jersey or a construction crew in Pennsylvania. He'd even buy them a train ticket, a suit of clothes, a meal. He was their benefactor. But here's the trap. Once the worker was settled at the job site, far from home and friends, Frenchy's machinery would click into motion. He would contact the employer and say, "I'm sorry, but it turns out this worker is an escaped mental patient, a dangerous lunatic. For a small fee, I can come and retrieve him." Then, he'd turn around and tell the worker, "Terrible news. Your employer is a violent man, a known gangster. He's planning to kill you. But don't worry, for a fee, I can rescue you." He was playing both sides with the same terrifying lie. And then the kidnapping would happen. Frenchy and his crew of enforcers, often ex-wrestlers and strongmen he'd met in the carnival circuit, would descend on the job site. They'd arrive in the middle of the night, often posing as police officers or doctors from an asylum. There'd be commotion, threats, the flash of a fake badge. They'd arrest the confused worker, shove him into a car, and drive him back to New York. But they weren't taking him home. They'd take him to one of Frenchy's safe houses, often just a rented room or a basement, and hold him prisoner. Then, the ransom demands would go out. To the worker's family, "Your son is in terrible trouble. Pay us to get him legal help." To the employer, "Your employee is a liability. Pay us to make this problem disappear." He was monetizing human fear from every possible angle. And it worked because he'd built a facade of legitimacy. He had offices. He had paperwork. He had the bearing of authority. Who would doubt the concerned count? The scale was staggering. At its height, Frenchy's kidnapping empire was pulling in millions in today's dollars. He had a network of spies, corrupt officials, and a fleet of cars. He lived lavishly, holding court in expensive restaurants, always playing the part of the eccentric nobleman. He even reportedly had a ceremonial sword. The sheer theatricality of it is what gets me. This wasn't just crime. It was a performance. A grotesque, cruel play where the victims were also the audience, forced to believe in the reality he'd constructed for them. But like all empires built on sand, it began to crumble. The cracks started with a young man named Mario Bari. In 1933, Frenchy's men recaptured Bari from a farm. They beat him, tortured him with a cattle prod, and demanded a ransom from his brother. But Mario managed to slip a note to a milkman. That note found its way to the police, and not just any police, to a detective who saw through the aristocratic charade. The investigation peeled back the layers of Frenchy's operation, revealing a labyrinth of fraud and terror. The trial was a spectacle, with Frenchy grandly defending himself, but the evidence was overwhelming. The self-made count was convicted and sentenced to a long prison term. What fascinates me about this story What keeps me turning it over in my mind on those West Village walks is the architecture of the con. As an engineer, I see the design. It was a system. It had inputs, desperate men seeking work. It had a process, the legitimate placement, the dual lies, the theatrical kidnapping. And it had an output, money and power. It was efficient. But as a storyteller, I see the human tragedy in every gear of that machine. These were men who wanted nothing more than a day's honest work, and their hope was weaponized against them. It speaks to a universal truth. The most dangerous predators don't always snarl. Sometimes, they offer you a hand up. They present a solution to your deepest fear, in this case, poverty and hopelessness. They build trust on the foundation of your need. And that, I think, is why Big Frenchy chills me more than a simple gangster. He wasn't just taking. He was first giving, just to make the taking so much sweeter. He understood that the best way to control someone is to first become their only hope. So the next time you walk past a humble storefront, an employment agency, a little office with a hopeful sign, remember that truth is often just a story someone has agreed to tell. And sometimes, the storyteller is a king of his own dark, imaginary world. Thank you for listening to this episode of Underworld Kings. If this story of twisted ambition and a city's shadows resonated with you, please share it with someone. It helps us keep telling these forgotten stories. For more from me, Ibnul, Jaif, Farabi, and the entire team, visit Light Knot Studios at lightknotstudios.com. Until next time, look a little closer.